Storm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Ben Slinger. With me, as always, is the wonderful Trevor Scott.
Hello.
Hello, Trevor.
How are you?
You know.
The usual.
A little bit singy.
The usual.
Must be the tequila. So, I think we're going to jump straight into some ramped up click pitch. Trevor, how about you let our audience know what this game is all about?
This game is all about getting random words, throwing them at each other, and then coming up with game designs. And then when it doesn't work, we throw it away.
Thank you, 7-year-old Trevor.
You're welcome.
Speaking in front of the class from something you prepared earlier. Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah.
All right. I have resigned impossible.
Outstanding dynamic.
Ooh. That's very buzzwordy.
Yeah. Where's synergy? Where's...
Yeah. All those other ones.
Yeah.
It's been a long time
Agile.
since I've been in an office.
Scrum.
Synergistic agile methodology. As
Manifesto.
Manifest the impossible. Is this a PowerPoint presentation simulator?
Ooh, I do like that. This is like a non-VR job simulator where you're actually, trying to put together, the flashiest, flashiest PowerPoints and / presentations, and you get to, draw all the colourful charts and.
Well, I was almost thinking, I wonder if this is kind of a branching narrative, all based around you giving this presentation. And the only choices you get are which is the next slide you're going to choose. So,
now, are they already chosen for you, or do you get to sort of help choose them at the start?
No, I think this is just sort of a narrative experience. You come in, you're giving the great presentation before the boss and the whole board, and you've got your first slide up there already, and it's Project Armadillo, changing our business for the better. And then you get an option of like this slide or that slide. And depending on which way you go, you'll get like reactions from the people in the room. And
it's sort of like a choose your own adventure, where the only thing that you can do is choose between two different slides.
Yeah, kind of. It's essentially just a branching dialogue tree, right? Or branching set of scenes, but they are predicated very directly by which slide you choose in this slideshow.
Ooh, I really like this idea. If at the end we can sort of show that all these presentations were happening in the multiverse. So you sort of then see that all,
Well, I think you could almost do something like they did in Detroit Become Human, where as you play a level, you see the points where things could have branched off. And maybe you just
and it's
let them
every single time that you chose it, you chose a different.
I mean, maybe. I think you'd have key ones. Obviously, you'd have to do a bit of like branching and coming back together from an actual narrative design standpoint, but essentially each of those branches kind of sets a flag for like that can alter the future branch, like the future branching sections, and drive it in very different directions. And I think obviously you'll end up with a number of endings, quite a few number of endings based on the particular path you take through this presentation.
Now, I would like some of these endings to be totally catastrophic.
Oh, yeah.
So, in other words, this is world ending if you don't get this right. So, it makes you want to go through it again to try and actually get the one way through to get the...
This is very much a comedy game over the top as, like, essentially trying to figure out the wildest things that could come from just a PowerPoint presentation in a like corporate setting, and so I didn't even know how you do that. It might just be like, you know, one of them could just be a very subtle lead up to you convincing everyone to be like genocidal maniacs, like, or something like that. Like the end result is this company is now just killing the weak and like going out and taking over the world. Or it could fucking end in an orgy because this whole, like, you've somehow convinced them. Or it could end up with like the CEO getting completely distraught and like throwing himself out the window because you've, I don't know, made him realize that he's wasted his life. PowerPoints are so powerful. That's why it's called PowerPoint.
PowerPoint. So yeah, I would really like it that like you get to the end of one of the endings, and it's sort of the camera goes up. And you see all these identical offices, all the same sort of PowerPoint presentations, all happening at the same time, and you sort of see one off to the side, and it's effectively you're just one of many, like, of the million monkeys.
No, but what I like about that is if all of those are endings you can actually get, then. And some of these might be difficult to get. So, like, you zoom out and you see all these other endings and you're like, that office building over there is on fire. That one over there has people jumping out of the windows. Like, that one over there has aliens landing on the roof. You're like, how the fuck do I get to those endings? And then you're going to want to play it again. So instead of showing the branches that lead to it, it's just like, here are the other possible endings from this top-level view. That'd be really cool.
But I kind of like the idea that this whole thing is you know, the whole if you sat a million monkeys down in front of a million typewriters, one of them is, you know, bound to one day press enough keys to get in a row to get the William Shakespeare sort of thing.
What could be cool about that is if during the presentation you can look out the windows at the one next door. And you might be able to see what would have happened if you'd chosen the other previous choice.
Ooh, that is cool.
Because they're only one choice away from you.
Yep.
That could be cool.
And
it could sort of become just a bit of a hint.
Because once you make one choice and they're now on a different path. Like,
well, I think you're essentially like there's this tree of buildings branching out behind you, right, of all the previous situations. And so, yes, every time you make a choice, you're splitting off, you know, on all of those, you've got all the possible choices and you just happen to be on this one. Now, obviously you don't render all of those at once in the actual game, but I do love the idea of modeling that in some way, like... And maybe once you get like 10 different endings, you can just like zoom out and like it's like a god mode. You can jump to literally any choice in this multiverse of buildings all the way from the beginning, and you actually see the branches.
I think you can only choose branches of choices that you've made it to, though. So
yeah, it's more of a replay.
As you get further, like. You can go, okay, I chose all these choices and now I can go from this branch here. And then all of a sudden you go down all the branches on that side.
So it lets you start halfway through and take different choices. Yeah. That's a good idea. And then you can kind of be filling it out. That's cool. And then we can have like hidden choices that actually, like, in some very small situations, it's not by choosing a slide, it's by like turning off the computer or something.
It's by choosing a slide at a certain time. So someone coughs and then you choose the slide.
Or you interrupt someone with it or something.
They were halfway through saying something and you go, yep, it's on the next slide, bang. And you just
and that
you switch to it and that changes... Not a whole branch, but like...
well, I think it just it does add a branch. Those branches may converge again later on, but... I love that, because you can obviously model the whole narrative tree as these different just like scenes, essentially. So being able to just jump to each scene and then getting a new choice at the end, is really cool.
But having like, you know, sort of these, maybe a golden outline around some of these scenes, and a golden outline means that there's a hidden branch choice. And so you can go back and try different things to try and get it. And if you try it too many times, then it sort of says, would you like a hint? So
yeah, I think you can definitely add stuff to make it easier to navigate once they've gone through a few things. And maybe you even bring it into the universe. It's like, once you've gone through this, you know, 3 times, found 3 different endings, like some multi-dimensional figure comes down and talks to you and says, oh, so you're stuck in a dimensional loop, huh? Like, you know, been there, here's how I got around. And so essentially like making it canon that you are going through this over and over again as an actual being. But really it just unlocks other gameplay.
Now the question is, and this is a key question.
Yeah.
Are you in virtual reality?
Wait, your character?
Yeah. Like you playing in virtual reality.
Oh, you play it in virtual reality. Right. Oh, I thought you'd said it up front that it was.
Because I'm imagining the way you choose it is you look down at your computer screen, and you've got the 2 choices between the two next PowerPoints.
And you essentially select one, and or maybe it's like a future. Maybe it's just a set in the near future, and you like grab it and throw it up at the screen, very Minority Report kind of way, just to add some nice tactics to it. Tactics, not tactics, like
tactile.
You know what I mean? Tactile, yes. Stuff.
For me, there's nothing better than actually interacting with something on a computer or something like that. Just being able to go,
especially if you grab it and throw it around. That's fun. No, it could be in VR for sure. It could work in either, but VR would add a certain something to it, as it always does, to the immersion of that. Especially like glancing over at the next building and seeing like a demon that's been summoned.
As like, the blinds come down.
Yes.
In fact, if you look over there,
that's through the other window where the orgy's happening.
I kind of like the idea that you look over there a few times, and then they notice that you're looking, and they pull down the blind.
Yeah, it would take some really skilled writing to actually like figure out how to get from that initial mundane situation into all this craziness. But I don't know, that's not our job.
Yeah, and the thing is, you never know. Like, it could just be a non sequitur sort of thing of just by you going through these sequence of events.
Yeah,
it's sort of like the butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil and causes a hurricane somewhere else. You change your thing and something happens to the world. Yeah,
I think some of them at least would have to be that, because it is difficult to have your actual choice matter that much. But I would like it if somehow you were changing this stuff through, like, literally through your PowerPoint presentation, and it's by making certain people angry because, I don't know, it could even be like, and the employee of the month this month is, and it's like got 2 different choices. Yeah, and one of them's you, or whatever, right? And it's going to piss the other person off, and they might get really angry and like throw something which hits the fan, and like it just makes stuff happen, right?
Yeah.
And it might not all happen at once. It might just be, like they made a big mess on the floor, but then later on, like someone might slip on that, and
I mean, yeah, it was all great until that one time that Barry spilled water over the projector, and then we had to move to the next office. That caused like some other shit to go down. Like,
yeah, and if we hadn't been in that office when the helicopter hit the building, we would have all been killed. It's like, I can go back and make a different choice and get us all killed.
And then that doesn't actually happen. You're like, what?
Or it does. And that leads to something else. You fall in love with the helicopter pilot after nursing him back to health.
You said the devil or a demon or something. So I was thinking, if you choose throughout the whole run, you choose the only 3 slides that have 6, 6, and 6 in it. Then it summons. So you can sort of go, oh yeah, I chose a 6 all the way back here on like the second slide, and then on the 18th slide I got another 6, and then slide 20 I got the third one. Yeah, you could do some cool stuff with that. Like they're essentially little hidden endings then that can only come through certain certain paths. I fucking love that. That's great because there's so much you could do with very simple stuff. Like it wouldn't need a lot of assets. A set especially, it's a single office basically.
You're basing most of these stories around just this room and the people in it, and a lot of them could be more mundane, and it's more just like, oh, I found out something really interesting about Janet, which might mean that in a different run, I know that taking a particular choice will maybe cause her to freak out. Like I learned that she's afraid of spiders or something, so if I choose a slide with spiders on it, she's going to like freak out and run out or something.
Oh, you could do so much, and I'm just thinking about it now, going, oh, this could be a lot of fun to see, YouTubers just trying to play all the different endings, especially in VR. Yeah. Like if it's funny and there's like you can throw things at other people in the room and they react and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Again, I don't think that would like change the decisions, obviously, except maybe for some hidden ones. But I'm almost picturing it as like a bit of a Stanley Parable sort of thing, where that just led into so many bizarre situations, building off sort of the first person walking simulator sort of style stuff. But yeah, this is all just in that one office. Get some good like motion capture stuff, basic motion capture, so you can just have a lot of custom animations and get some voice actors in there. And
did you ever play Dr. Langeskov, the Tiger and the Terribly Cursed Emerald?
No.
It's a free game on Steam. Oh, I'm pretty sure it was. And it was... sorry, I'm trying to pull it up now.
It's by the same guy?
Yeah.
Hey. Was this before Stanley Parable? No, this was after.
This is after. So I won't give everything away, but when you first start playing, you're actually working the stuff in the background, so you're actually sort of making someone else's experience for
How
them.
have I not heard of this game?
I don't know.
I love Stanley Parable.
It's really cool. I'm not going to say anything else. Go play it.
Don't spoil it. I'm definitely going to play it.
Yeah. Now, I can't say what I was going to say, so feel free to... Everyone go out and try that, and maybe next week, if I remember, I'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, it's a really cool game, so go check it out.
I fucking love that game. I feel like that's one of the best ideas we've had in a long time. All right, 3, 2, 1, click. I got Tried Private.
Chopping Bus.
Bus?
Bus.
Or bust?
Bus.
Just bus. Like the wheels on the...
Wheels on the bus.
All right. And Tried Private on a chopping bus.
Mm-hmm.
So is this like a vehicular cooking game? Chopping stuff while moving?
I was thinking chopping like zombie sort of survival sort of thing.
Okay. Oh, yeah, all right. I like that because I love the idea of essentially building up your, like, band of survivors on this bus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this bus is your camp. It's your... It's everything you have.
Yeah, it's a moving survival game. So you're going from town to town, scavenging the town, getting back in the bus and heading off. Trying to get as many survivors as you can. You know, obviously your bus has a limit of 72 passengers, as is typical with a bus.
Well, yeah, maybe less. Oh, well, actually that could be interesting as you upgrade it to like add things. It's like, well, we want a distillery because we want some moonshine, but that's going to take up like 4 people's seats. So we need to decide if that's going to be worth it.
I'm sorry, Cheryl. You are the weakest link. The weakest link. Goodbye. Kick her out into the zombies.
Into the zombie horde. That's fun. Can it be desert bus style?
I knew that you were going to say desert bus because it's in my head.
Well, I just feel like not the like desert bus has a different message that it's sending around video games and kind of the mundanity of that, and but more of just the real-timedness of it, and that you do have portions where you're just driving for a while, right? Mm-hmm. And I think stuff happened. Like, I don't think we're actually making it super boring, but like, it might just be that conversations are happening behind you, as and maybe you can switch out. It's like, someone else drive. Yep. And so then you can go back and like talk to people and be doing your upgrades and stuff. But, there might be a benefit to actually doing the driving yourself, or like people have stamina.
It's morale.
Right?
As
and
well.
Morale, yeah.
Like if you stick Jeremy on the driving the bus all the time, he's going to get a little bit down in the dumps and maybe become, a little bit annoyed with the whole group and decide to turn into the group of zombies and try to mow them all down or something like that. Like,
well, and I think a lot of when you are driving, whether it's you or one of the NPCs, it's a lot of it is like avoiding or deciding to hit zombies. Again, based on how much you've kind of upgraded your defenses and your armor and your like spikes on the front of your bus, or Mad Max style full on.
I'm just imagining if you haven't sharpened those spikes in a while, it's just going to impale like a zombie, but they're not going to completely die. They're just going to sort of sit there going and, trying to attack you like while stuck on the front of the bus. But
and
then
for some types of characters, well, and some types of characters will fucking love that because they're like super gung ho zombie killers, and they're like it ups their morale if they've got a half dead zombie stuck on the front of the bus.
But Mrs. Norris, I mean, she really doesn't like zombies stuck on the front of the bus, and in fact, she's usually that loving grandmotherly type, but she cracks the shits if you've killed too many zombies with the bus.
Oh yeah, if you've got one stuck, she'll force you to pull over so she can go out there and cut its head off with a shovel.
Yeah, I mean,
precious little Mrs. Norris, does what needs to be done.
Yeah, she's awesome. In fact, you get through the whole game, you realise that if you took the easy route of getting rid of her at the very start, she becomes like the arch nemesis of the entire game.
So that leads me to what I was thinking next, because for a bit there I was thinking procedurally generated characters, right, for your crew with different stats and stuff. But I think actually a better way to do that is a wide cast of pre-made characters.
Yep.
And what's procedurally generated is, like, I think the world is procedurally generated and you don't know who you're going to get. So you do start to get to know different characters, but then it's a bit more like, oh, yes, I got Mrs. Norris, at the first stop on this run. That means that whatever, we're going to be able to...
That means that when we get to the fort, we're going to be able to get in because she knows everything about,
Yeah, she's got connections.
War memorials and all this sort of stuff. And
yeah. So, they have different skills, different stats, but they're the same every time for that character. It's more which characters are you going to get. So maybe you've got like 50 different characters that you might get to choose from on a run, but you're only going to get 10, max per run or something, to sort of fill out your little.
Ooh, and then you got to decide: do we actually want to pick up a Jeremy right now, or do we hold out for Mrs. Norris?
Yeah, you can exactly. Yes, you're making those hard decisions.
Why
do we want Jeremy? We've already got Janine. They're basically like gender swap versions of each other. The devs got lazy, so we're just going to let Jeremy die.
But I think having one of the random one of the 50
the
named people is also the arch nemesis for this time.
Yeah, well, maybe particularly
they've got their own bus.
Maybe if you do particularly let someone die, then there's more chance of them coming as that final boss, essentially.
Oh, I was thinking that because we all know that in these things, the humans are always the worst thing about, like, the zombie apocalypse. And that's why I was thinking that anyone that you haven't necessarily picked up or that you ignored have the chance to go onto your arch rival's bus. So you got to start thinking.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Oh my God, I've had really, really strong people. I'm going to have to say no to Mrs. Norris because obviously we got Chuck, her son. You know, he was the better choice, but now...
But that means that Miss Norris might end up on the final bus.
On the final bus, and we may end up at the fort as the final place, and that gives them a big advantage going into the fort.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that, yes, like, the other people have a bus, but I like it as being, like, one of the people is sort of the main, like, the antagonist at the end, because then you get that flavour for each of these characters has a different kind of reason why they might have ended up as the antagonist, or like bonuses depending on where, like, the final place you end up.
Oh, I'm just imagining if you didn't have Jeremy but you had Janine, but Jeremy was the arch enemy, like his whole thing is the fact that you've got the female version of him, and
well, maybe they're twins. Maybe they're twins. And he thinks that you've kidnapped her. Sort of thing. Yeah. Or he's just jealous or something. Yeah, like, I think there are reasons. I mean, again, you have to be careful not to create too many permutations where their story has to be based on someone who's on your bus, but you could manage that in different ways. But I also like that gives strategy.
I kind of like the idea that every person has a synergy with one person.
Yeah.
And so if you've got that person on the bus and they're your antagonist, then you get that synergy as the finale.
Like, that's a bonus,
But if you don't have that person, then you get their other reason. So basically, each person has two reasons. One is...
Yeah, sort of a story-based reason, and then maybe a more generic-based reason that's not based on anyone on the bus.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, and I like then that also each of these named people has pre-existing relationships with certain other people. Like, for one, they might have a synergistic, like, a positive relationship, and for one, they have a negative relationship. So if you do come along and you're like, oh, Chuck's there, but you're like, oh, fuck, but I've already got Fido, the, smartest dog left after the zombie apocalypse, and they don't get along because Chuck killed his owner.
No, Chuck cut his balls off. Get it right.
Chuck cut his balls off. There you go. Which you found out, like, from a previous run. Then you're like, oh, fuck, no, I can't pick Chuck. But then Chuck's going to be on the other team. Like, there's a lot of cool choices you can make there.
Yeah, and
what I was going to say, actually, again, is it's about that you've got some choice about where you end up for that final battle. Like you said, like, maybe it's the fort, maybe it's the school, maybe it's the mall. You don't necessarily know who's on the other bus at that point, but you know who's on your bus, and so you can make that choice. It's like, oh, well, I don't have Mrs. Norris, so if I go to the fort, there is a chance that, like, it'll be a harder fight if Mrs. Norris is there, but she might not be. Like, yeah,
I kind of like the idea that it's kind of like an Isaac run, in that you've got each level is effectively, it's a town. And then another town, and then another town. But it's a procedurally generated town when you get there. So you sort of like, okay, get out, go through the general store, go, oh, this place doesn't have a general store, but it's got three houses next to the town hall.
Yeah,
that means that inside the fridge there may be an awesome weapon, or there may be something like that. I've seen this in the past.
It's similar to, there was a game called Death Road to Canada, which was like a top-down kind of 2D thing, which was sort of going from town to town during a zombie apocalypse.
Yep.
But obviously, it was a bit different. It was, you could get a car, but then your car would run out of gas, so you'd have to be running, and you would pick up different people, and they would have different skills. But obviously, ours is a little bit focused, a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But yes, I like that, where it's essentially you've got a driving period, which again can affect your armor, it can affect how much gas you use, it can affect different things. And then you've got a scavenging / shooter period. Like I'm picturing this as first person, by the way. I don't know what you were picturing.
I'm not picturing VR though. Like I think
no.
This
I think
would work well
traditional just FPS controls, and you can move around the bus if you're not driving. And then when you're out in the town, it's very much almost a like battle royale sort of thing, where you're going around like opening stuff, scavenging stuff, finding stuff. Oh shit, here's some enemies coming, like take them out. As a team, you maybe choose which, 2 or 3 people come with you while scavenging as well, and the rest are like protecting the bus.
I'm picturing the speedrun strats are going to literally be: you pick up no one when you're on the bus, you chuck it in cruise control, and you just quickly run, do your stuff, come back, and just recorrect, and run, do your stuff, come back, correct.
yeah, I like that. A lot of strats there, a lot of strategies. That's fucking great.
It's all about the menuing.
I think there's so much potential there. Again, like we're fucking killing it tonight. Let's move on.
If we say so ourselves.
3, 2, 1, click.
Informative silence.
Was that informative? No. 4th rectangle.
4th rectangle. Ooh.
Gives me a very kind of like Fifth Element, 7th vibe, where we have to make something out of why this being the 4th rectangle is important.
I kind of like the idea of bringing in spatial dimensions again. Like there's something about the 4th dimension and whether the 4th dimension is time or whether it's actually a 4th spatial dimension or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to.
Yeah, I was actually looking at some sort of way of describing that each thing in sort of like the second dimension, when you see it, if you were to see a third dimensional object, all you'd see is like one of the faces, and it just get bigger and bigger and bigger as it sort of
like the Flatlander sort of thing. Yeah. In fact, I watched a 2-minute papers the other day talking about have you?
Yeah, I think this
on?
may be the one where they were bringing like a a 4-dimensional object into a 3D space, and it was just like a cube that was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and as it was leaving the space, it was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's like, wow, that's so like, I can't get my head around it. But
well, what was really interesting, actually, the one I watched was they were doing physics in 4 dimensions.
Nice.
So these objects were not only kind of moving, like bouncing off each other, they were bouncing off each other in 4th dimensions, so that they were just like shrinking and getting cut, like sliced in different ways that was not at all obvious as to why, because we are 3-dimensional beings. Yeah. But for this though, I mean, I have trouble wrapping my brain around how you would utilize that.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we bring that in as a mechanic.
It's just a side story.
Well, it could be... Okay, so it could be used more as in a techno-babbly kind of way of like 4th dimensional beings that can essentially slip out of the, again, to bring it down a dimension, if they're slipping out of the line, the plane that you are on, they're just stepping to the side in the 4th dimension, and then they're gone. You can't see them anymore. You don't know they exist. And in fact, is this the sequel to the game we did, which was you in a 3rd dimension, like affecting someone's 2nd dimension?
it was basically there were some characters in 2D and they accidentally stepped into the third dimension, like, so
Yes,
when
that's what it
they
was.
hid something behind a bin and no one ever thought to look behind a bin.
Right, and they couldn't figure out what had happened. It's gone. So is this like the next level? Is this the sequel to that? And now we've gone up one dimensional.
Yeah,
level?
we're in 3D, and I think what actually happens is you get handed like a rectangle, and it's sort of like it's just a rectangle, and it's like, remember, and
Wait,
then all of a
so-
sudden,
okay.
because I think your character remembers from
Being
when
in
they
2D?
when they were in 2D in that previous
Right.
game, and they're like, hang on, we've now gone to 3-dimension. I seem to remember both worlds of always having lived in the third dimension, but I seem to remember of hiding something behind a bin.
Why is that strange? Oh, wait. But it only had
Behind?
sides and a top. It didn't have a front and a back.
I think that's the joke that we came up with last time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a callback.
Sides and top. No, but I think that's great.
So okay, does that mean... So is there a scene in this when you go to a 3-dimensional bin and you're like, okay, it's got a front, it's got a back, it's got two sides, it's got a top, it's got a bottom, it's got a other and an inner and a further and a closer or whatever. Like, you're coming up with these new names for the sides of this thing in the extra dimension.
Your character in this one is able to step into that fourth dimension, and it just sort of does a bit of a colour shift of the whole thing. But then...
Yeah, I don't know how much we want to... I mean, I think... I'm sure there are already names for the sides of things, of like a hypercube or whatever, right? That is...
I love it.
mathematically
I love all
already a
these sort
thing,
of
but...
crazy, sciencey, technobabbly things.
Oh my god, it's so wild. It just breaks my brain.
Okay.
All right, I don't think we're going to go any further into a game.
3, 2, 1, movie.
Movie. All right. For those who haven't listened before, this is a game where instead of random words, we just take a random movie. We either use the title or the full description or or plot of the movie if we've seen it to make a sort of a full tie-in game. Or we just use the title and use that as a prompt. I love this movie.
I'll go first then.
Okay.
I've got the movie The Recruit, and it's from 2003.
Mm-hmm.
A brilliant CIA trainee must prove his worth at the farm, the agency's secret training
Does that have
grounds.
Matt Damon in it?
No, it looks like
it's a Matt
Colin Farrell and maybe an Al
Colin
Pacino, where he learns to watch his back and trust no one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Well, I got the 2011 movie Source Code with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I do like myself a source code.
It's a good movie.
In fact, I did think about source code during our first game tonight with all the different buildings. I was sort of thinking that you're maybe playing through trying the
like
different things.
Simulation, So spoilers probably for Source Code here. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. But the idea is Jake Gyllenhaal plays a soldier who wakes up in someone else's body on a train. And after 8 minutes, the train explodes, and then he sort of realizes or finds that he is part of essentially an experimental program that is reliving someone's memory, where he can sort of they've essentially created this simulation in his mind of this place based on someone else's brainwaves or whatever, and he needs to find what happened and why this train exploded.
What is crazy is I've seen it quite a few times, but and I love the film, but I cannot remember who the actual villain of the piece was.
Interestingly, it's almost not important.
Yeah.
It's not like this huge antagonist. It's so much about his journey and obviously his relationship with the woman who's on the train that it almost doesn't matter.
Cool.
It's quite a good movie, but I don't think we should do the plot. because we have done a very similar game, and in fact, I think
we may have done source code as another game. I think the idea of having, a similar sort of, maybe a version 2 of source code in some other situation down the path.
Yeah, maybe. I'm wondering if we just move away from the idea of the time loop altogether and just utilize source code as a prompt.
Okay. Now, is this like Ralph Breaks the Internet sort of able to walk through like this world of source code and like interact with the methods and variables and stuff like that?
Yeah, maybe this is a bit of like the hack and slash, the Double Fine game that they brought out, where you're essentially able to plug into different things and alter their code.
Yep.
And there have been other games that have done that to a certain degree. There's like Quadrilateral Cowboy, which is all about sort of doing coding and attaching to different things in the world. But this is much more... Yeah, I kind of like the idea that almost every inanimate object has at least some basic functions.
Yeah.
So you can like alter the mass of, even just the smallest thing has like a mass variable that you can go in there and plug a different number into. But then obviously more complicated things have like timers and sensors and different stuff that you can then reprogram.
I kind of like the idea that you're going into like a matrixy sort of world. And as you go through, you actually get the technology to be able to then plug into one of the other, some of the other people around there, so you can actually start modifying the NPCs and getting them to kind of like a Johnny Mnemonic sort of thing as well, where you've got those ports in people's heads, but it's in this case that it's
so is this all the people are simulated in it?
Yeah.
Then
I think you're going down into like a Tron-like world even, but in this case you've actually got the debug tools to be able to.
Or is this a little bit like the 13th Floor, where
that was good.
You're going into a simulation from like a different time, and maybe we'd go to one of our classic eras of like the 80s or 90s or something.
Yeah. Because I think the 13th Floor was like 50s or 60s. The 13th Floor
went back to like the 30s or something.
30s or... Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really cool film.
It's a cool film.
I want to watch it again.
Well, do you remember the end?
No.
Okay, then I won't spoil it.
I have seen it, but...
Yeah, but it's always good to rewatch something like that. No, but I like that idea of, okay, for whatever reason you've created this simulation of the 1987. Maybe it's a bit of a, and I hesitate to reference this just because it's not fantastic in a lot of ways, but like a Ready Player One situation where like you just have this great nostalgia for the 80s. And so you're like, well, I just want to create the world of the 80s. You're like a hermit who's trying to get away from everything.
Yep.
And you want to create this familiar world to live in. But like the government or whoever, like another company finds out about your technology and they want to steal it. And so you sort of escape into this world. And then there are other people in here who aren't NPCs, essentially, who are going to be hunting you. And it could even be one of these sort of like... You could have little scenes, like set pieces sort of thing where it's like, okay, like I know that there are going to be people coming. So you can like, okay, I'm going to hack this person and like up their aggression level so that if anyone gets close to them, they're going to like punch them. And then I'm going to come over here and turn up the speed on this fan, when it's hooked up to this switch or something. Yeah. Like, essentially play these things out and plan these traps by hacking all this stuff.
Be able to hack like a table to be 3 times its size so that you can sort of hide behind it and create like a bunker sort of thing. Like,
yeah, or it could be interesting once you get to a certain level where you can literally like alter the vertices of things and it changes their like physical properties and stuff. 'Cause that's definitely doable.
Ooh. I kind of like the idea of like being able to flip the normals of like what something on this side, so you can see through it, and you can see through, but they can't. So you've only flipped one of the normals. So
you've only flipped the normal of one face, like one set of faces.
Yeah,
that might be going a bit too far into just like terminology and stuff that people don't understand about that. But no, you could do it. It'd be fun.
So a normal.
I think you definitely have to put some limitations in place on sort of how much you can do in a certain amount of time or something. So that you can't just like make things completely overpowered.
Yeah, I think it's all based off your level. Like the further in the game that you are, the more objects you can control at once.
Yeah, okay, and maybe just like the larger values you can change them by, or something. Initially, yes, you can change the mass of a pen, so that when you throw it at someone, it just embeds in their head. But you can only do it by a few kilos. Later on, you can do it by like a few tons.
Jesus Christ!
It's like collapses the entire table underneath it.
Computer disables safety protocols.
Then you find out the whole thing was on a starship in the holodeck.
And you go to leave, and you can't, and you realise that you're actually a hologram
Computer
the whole
arch.
time.
Oh my god! And then Picard comes in and plugs a USB port into your head.
No! Click again.
All right, I reckon let's do a second chance click pitch. Yep, so we are going to go all the way back to episodes... What are we up to? 7?
Yeah, why not?
7. Which was our episode featuring Emre Dinners, the wonderful game designer, one of our early guests. And so what we're doing here is, for those who don't know, we're up to episode 210. So we've got many episodes going back 4 years or more. And so we're going back to those early episodes to look at some of the prompts we got and making something completely new out of them. And trying not to repeat ourselves, since it has been a long time and we may not remember what we did. So let's do it. I shall choose one. I do remember what
this is going to become very hard very soon, because we stopped putting what words we got in the... I
was doing it for a good couple of years, I think.
I wasn't.
Anyway, yeah. All right. Let's go with... Man, we had some weird words. Outgrown heirloom predicament.
Outgrown heirloom predicament.
Is this something to do with like a baby pram or something, like something that's been passed down, or a baby toy that's been passed down through generations?
Yeah. I do like that. A bassinet, maybe. Bassinets are quite old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Lots of lace.
Yeah. So has something happened to it then, and you're trying to get it back or replace it in some way? What's the predicament?
I think the predicament is the fact that, like, your grandmother wants you to make sure that your new baby uses the bassinet like all your previous family members have, sort of thing. Like it's your sister has just finished using it with her young child, and now it's your turn. But you kind of don't like the look of it. It's gross
and smelly.
It's smelly.
Unsafe. It's against yellow. The health recommendations to put a baby in something with lace.
Yellowed and all this sort of stuff. But you seem to be the only one who notices this. Like, everyone else sort of sees it as like because it's this like grand heirloom. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not thinking that it's I'm not thinking that this is in a normal sort of thing, I'm thinking this is almost a horror-y, sort of supernaturally sort of thing going on with this heirloom, and there's a reason.
So it's essentially a cursed in some way, and you have some insight into, like, you are able to see through it to a certain degree.
I think the reason why you can is because, unlike everyone else, you are not a blood relative. You are adopted.
Ooh, or is it that you weren't raised in it? Like, you weren't put in this as a child.
Okay.
Because it's been passed down, right? And it gets passed around the family. But it happened to be that, like, you're one of the only, in the past few generations, you're one of the only times where, like, two siblings had children at the exact same time and the choice had to be made. And so you didn't get your family, like, your parents didn't get to put you in this. And so it hasn't, like, cursed you.
It hasn't got its hooks in you, as it were.
Yeah.
Ooh, I kind of like the idea of there's something not quite right about the family, and there's a reason why you haven't been in touch with them for a while, and they've, I'm picturing that the grandmother turns up on the doorstep and says, "Oh, I noticed that we haven't seen you for years."
Come to celebrate the birth of your child, and I know that you'll want to, use the family bassinet that. Everyone has raised their children in. Oh, I mean, I guess except for you, that was an unfortunate.
Oh no,
series of events.
I think this is something they don't even realize that there's something wrong there. But I'm picturing that grandma goes to stay over, and make sure that you're settling in well and all this sort of stuff. And so I think there's a little bit of time to sort of help out with the baby. You can put them down to sleep, and it's sort of not an instantaneous thing. It's sort of like when a baby has gone down to sleep for like a full moon cycle or something like that.
Right, it takes that amount of time to like attune to the child,
something like that. But so I'm picturing that grandma is just putting the baby into the bassinet, and you come in the middle of the night, and you just see this ratty old thing that, because in the moonlight I'm picturing that it looks even more tattered and.
Oh God, I had a thought for a moment of like, what if this is in VR, and I'm picturing holding a baby in VR, like two hands, and how that would work, and then I'm like. Actually, that could create some really horrible situations where you are like doing really nasty things to a baby. So no, I don't think this is VR.
No.
I think you have limited mobility with the baby. You don't give them full control. Quad controls holding a baby. Yeah, let's not.
I'm like, how much worse can I make it? Yep, it's Quap.
No, I think this is either like, I think it's maybe like first or third person.
Yeah, first person. I love horror. I love the idea of horror in first person.
Yeah.
I don't love horror games. I love talking about them. I love watching other people
designing
play them.
and yeah.
But I like Five Nights at Freddy's. No fucking way. Like, I just can't do it.
Yeah. Okay, so
and having watched some of the VR like Five Nights at Freddy's stuff, I'm like, no,
never. No, that's cool. I think. So the family in general. Do people from the family just like keep coming and moving into your house? Like they're essentially trying to like claim this child as part of their cursed, family tree.
Yeah. Ooh, I kind of like the idea that, when grandma isn't getting her own way and something happens late one night, and you go in to check on the baby, and you see, standing over the baby is like grandma, and she doesn't look right.
She doesn't look right,
but then you turn on the light, and she's just normal old grandma, but with the lights off, like she was all like
Oh, that'd be really cool to
long
use
arms
that effect.
and just sort of hunched over, but just
because horror movies have been doing that
tall.
really well recently with that sort of flicking on the lights and things change. Like that's been in quite a few horror movies lately. I'd like to see that in a game, where that just essentially flicks out the model and the shader and the lighting, you know, from a technical standpoint. But just goes from that. Oh, there's something not right here too. Oh, no, I guess it's fine. I had an idea of, like, you come home one day and someone's drawn this, like, huge, creepy family tree, like, on the living room wall. And they're like, oh, those done, you know, your little cousins or whatever, you know, they must have done that. But you look at it, it's just like, this isn't right. It's, like, almost cultish with how, you know, you're not on it.
I'm just picturing like different symbols on the tree. Like there's an upside down pentagram over here, and there's some other sort of normal symbols that you sort of
I think it's subtle at that point.
But when you get the black light on it later on, Jesus Christ, you really shouldn't have done that, because that's where like you see literally horns coming out of grandma's bloody name and all this sort of stuff, and you get all these signs of who's. I think you are on the tree, but then when you do the blacklight, you see that there's nothing on your name. Like you're the only one who's sort of natural. Yeah. I think at some stage you can rip a little bit of the lace. And you actually see, like, some weird, like, script sort of written all the way around this thing that is basically...
And then the lace heals.
Oh, yeah. There's something about, like, this thing is, impermeable to like, damage or anything like that. You take it out the back and you chop it up,
malevolent.
You burn it, and then you come back inside and it's still there. Like,
I mean, that's a classic thing, right? Yeah, I like that a lot. What's the resolution? Is this a happy ending? Do you get your child away from these people? Oh, I mean, we could have multiple endings, obviously.
The thing is, most of the time in horror movies, you think that you get away. The protagonist thinks they get away, and they think that they're safe. But in reality, what's actually happened is they've gone into a new, even worse danger.
I like the idea that you've gotten away. Your kid's a little bit older. They're like 1 by now. Yeah. You've put him in sort of a little bed. Oh, it's this scene.
You've gone to your
put him to sleep,
house.
And then I'm just thinking like you, because I'm thinking you've got the bed there. You've put him down to sleep. This nice little scene, and then you notice that there's like a little bit of lace on the corner. It's almost like it's growing out of the bed. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, but I just thought about if you go to the in-laws' place and they're sort of like,
who presumably are not part of the cult.
They're not part of that cult.
Yeah,
they're part of their own.
They've got their own family cult going on.
Yeah, and they say, don't worry, we'll put you in our family bassinet. And then you go in.
It's even worse. It's got teeth.
You go in and, like, it looks, even rattier and has the same sort of script, and it's like it's some other cult that is,
I think you just get a quick scene there because, like, often it'll, to really show what's going on. You walk in, you go up to the bassinet, and it just jumps at you and, like, eats your face and cut to black. Just been sacrificed to it. That's really fun.
Yeah.
All right,
let's go one more.
One more second chance, click pitch before we finish up.
Say goodbye.
All right, I think let's do Banqueting Vibrant Angst.
I remember what we did with this one last time.
Do you? I don't.
This was the food fight.
Oh, this was the food fight. Okay, yeah, Teen Angst Food Fight. That's the title of the episode. Okay, well, then we're not doing that, obviously.
But Banqueting, Teen and Angst
No, vibrant angst. Teen doesn't come into it, so we can stay from that. Vibrant makes me think maybe of some sort of like, well, particularly banqueting, and vibrant is like shiny platters, you know, like that's where the vibrance comes from, like super clean and whatever. So maybe you play like a servant or a waiter or something
at a Smorgy's.
Okay. Yes. For those who may not be aware, I don't know how far through Australia this was at least, but Smorgy's was a smorgasbord restaurant. Here, at least in Victoria, there are a few of them. Very common place for like birthday parties and stuff, particularly for us as teens.
Yeah.
Where a lot of food would get wasted and destroyed and have unspeakable things done to it. But also they had all-you-can-eat cinnamon donuts, and it was glorious.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone always... And this is typical of most kids. You'd have, like, a small plate of something, and then you'd go raid the ice cream sundae bar.
Oh,
and
then it was dessert.
It was dessert. It's kind of like the all-you-can-eat at Pizza Hut, except better, because everything was, like, just well done.
Yes, it was. And look, the food was pretty good from what I recall.
Yeah.
You know, they had, like, a carvery section. They had, you know, a number of different, obviously, salad bar. And did they have, I guess they must have had, like, different, like, did they have, like, curries and... I can't remember, actually.
Can't remember much of the food.
Teenagers, we mostly skipped the mains into the dessert.
I can remember the dessert bar really, really well. Like,
yeah.
Whole heat, you know...
Chocolate
mousse, jelly.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
custard,
ice cream,
something,
all the different toppings.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Hundreds and thousands, M&Ms, everything.
I lament the fact, and this may have come up because of the discussion on Twitter that I had this week with some of the other 8-bit folks, because they were talking about all-you-can-eat Pizza Hut. I lament the fact that our children...
don't know anything about that. Will never experience.
Will not experience this. There is an all-you-can-eat Pizza Hut in Ballarat, and my sister and her family go there once a year. They literally make the drive out to Ballarat, or Bendigo. I think there's one in Ballarat and Bendigo.
Bendigo will be closer.
Only slightly. To do all-you-can-eat.
Oh, actually, maybe
Pizza
not.
Hut, but they're pretty similar from here, anyway, I think.
Yeah. Ballarat, anyway. I think, is about 2.5, so...
Yeah. Okay, so what's the game? Are you playing like the owner of this place, trying to like?
I think this is a narrative game,
or is this a physics toy where you're trying to make the most horrible drink out of all the different food and then have one of your friends drink it for $10? Because that was another common pastime.
That's how we did it in year 11 and 12.
Oh yeah.
I remember a friend's 18th birthday at Smorgy's in
Ringwood.
In Ringwood.
I think we're thinking of the same party.
Yep. And going out onto the oval afterwards, and that was even worse.
Shit. That's right. Oh my god.
Yeah, so I think this is a narrative game of there's basically, I think you may be the waiter.
Yeah.
And you're like dealing with these different families and the drama that's sort of going on with these families, while you're also trying to keep the doing mini games to keep the Sunday machine going, so that, you know, the screaming kids have got something to eat, and making sure that, you know, the sneeze guard is actually down when Sniffly Bill over there is
Sniffly Bill.
It's definitely set in the 90s.
Yeah, I think this is a Smorgy's licensed video game. I want the whole, like, thinking back, maybe slightly problematic tiki vibe. I think, different ones had different, like, there was a sort of a jungle vibe more than a tiki vibe, but it
just so happens that, like, they had a huge, like, what felt like a tiki statue that you almost went through to get in.
Yes,
so.
yeah. But inside it was more just sort of jungle-ish, I think.
Which is so weird because the food wasn't jungly.
Oh, God, no. The food was just regular kind of dinner food, you know. There was nothing themed about the food.
But there's just something about, like, going through and you're dealing with these different families and you know, maybe one of the kids gets their finger stuck inside the soft serve machine when it wasn't working, and you know,
I think it's sort of going from scene to scene. I think maybe it's one of these things where, because you know it's a fairly large restaurant, maybe it's one of these sort of in a Hitman way where there's just stuff going on the whole time, and you literally can't see all of it in one go.
Yep.
And so it's sort of, if you intervene, then you will change the course of something slightly, but otherwise things will just play out in different ways. And maybe the goal is in a sort of Groundhog-ish Day sort of thing to like get the best run through, where it's like, okay, well, if I leave that kid with his finger stuck in the soft serve machine for just a little bit longer, it actually means that it won't like spill rancid milk all over the floor, which means Buddy over here won't slip on it later. And so, you know, I actually balance this in a slightly different way to you know, make sure that by the end of the day, you know, you've got the least damage to this place or something.
Yep. The least amount of lawsuits.
yeah. The least amount of food wastage.
So
no, impossible.
I think some of the ideas is to make sure that when you see the group of teenagers go to sit down at that booth, that you remove the salt and pepper, because we all know what salt and pepper does to milk.
Oh God!
Because that's what happened at our friends.
This has just become
birthday.
A Smorgy's remembrance session now.
Yep, Smorgy's Anonymous.
Smorgy's Anonymous. Now I want cinnamon donuts.
Hi, I'm Trevor. I'm a smorgaholic.
I think we're going to leave it there tonight.
It's been 20 years since I was last at Smorgy's.
And I hate it. I want to go back. If you want to find us online, you can go to podchaser.com/bitstorm. All of our previous episodes are there. Go back and listen to episode 7, Teen Angst Food Fight. See what we actually did with those last 2 prompts. There's a hint in the title for the one we just talked about. It's a lot of fun. It's a great episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're also part of the 8-Bit Collective. This is a group of podcasters doing stuff around pop culture and video games and all sorts of other great stuff. So go to 8bit.net and check them out.
If you like Australian gaming podcasts and you want to check out some more, then check out the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network on Facebook or at AGP Network on Twitter. And finally, we'd like to thank the wonderful musicians over at Kuradust for the use of the song Mount Defiance off the album Containment Failure.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And I'm Clippy. It looks like you're trying to make a PowerPoint.